Welcome to the story of immortality. You're about to enter a magical world. We invite you to savor the feeling of peace, love, and wisdom as it opens your eyes to your true self, to reality itself. The sessions are designed to uplift you as you access the subtle, eternal spiritual universe that moves within this physical world. To take maximum benefit from this series, we recommend the following important tips. Sit in a quiet place where you can be alone for an hour. We ask you to take this time out and be with yourself with no distractions. Sit with your spine straight, either in a comfortable chair or on the floor. This will ensure that the energy flowing in your body will support what you're hearing. Keep your phones in silent mode and away from you in another room for the whole hour. We encourage you to keep your camera on. Our experience has taught us that other participants will be inspired to see you. We will record these sessions. Only the speakers and not the participants will be recorded. 5 languages are available for translation. To select a language, click on the interpretation button, and then you can opt for Hindi, Spanish, French, Telugu, or Tamil by clicking on one of them. This is our registration link. It is not mandatory, but if you would like to receive the recordings and other information, then do register.
Om Shanti. Welcome to the story of immortality presented by Brahma Kumaris. So today is our episode 10, the cycle of time. So now we will see the flow for today's program, and then Sister Shireen will be with us and she will introduce us today's guest speaker. Om Shanti.
This program, The Story of Immortality, will enlighten you through insights, visuals, and meditations. We will begin soon with 15 minutes of sharing with a senior teacher. Then Sister Shireen or Sister Dorothy will make a 30-minute presentation, interspaced with 2 meditations that unwrap the book. Lastly, we will address questions from participants for 10 minutes. Om Shanti, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Story of Immortality. I'm very happy and pleased to be with you, and I'm even more pleased to introduce our special guest today, Brother Ken. Brother Ken, there he is. Brother Ken is currently in Sao Paulo, if I'm not mistaken. He has been practicing the teachings of the story of immortality for the past 45 years. And he's very active both spiritually and administratively. He is the author of many books on meditation. He's the author of many books on the spiritual knowledge. And also he coordinates all of the activities of the Brahma Kumaris in Central and Latin America. So welcome, Brother Ken.
Thanks, Shireen. Lovely to see you.
Lovely.
It's lovely to be with you on this program. Well, it's great.
Yes, yes. So we want to talk to you about the cycle of time today and your personal experience of it. So can you remember the first time you felt, oh my God, this is the cycle? I'm guessing you didn't grow up with that concept.
Well, in a way, yes. I think my previous searching had led me to certain conclusions that, I was aware that there was something that survived physical death. I was aware that I was responsible for my actions, that I couldn't blame God or couldn't blame the devil. But of course, I didn't know where I came from, where I was going to. And, there were a few other things too. I was not comfortable with the idea of evolution, even though it's put as a sort of a very robust idea. It's only a theory. And I wasn't very content with the idea of a Big Bang. I thought that human beings came from other human beings. So there's a lot of confusion in my mind. That our parents are human beings and their parents are human beings. And if you go back and back and back in time, you won't find people whose parents were either monkeys or some dust somewhere. So I was very, a bit confused. When I came to Brahma Kumari's, the idea of the soul surviving the body, the idea of I was in a very tiny centre in northwest London that I came. I was one of the first Westerners, in fact. But of all of the ideas that were there present, the thing that most called my attention was the fact that time was not a straight line. It was a cycle. And it started to fit with my previous searching. When you've got a cycle, you've got the complete cause and effect. And since I was a sort of more of a philosophical bent of mind, maybe scientific as well, it really made me happy to think that if there's a cause and effect, a cause and effect, a cause and effect, then finally you get to a time when actually the first cause is the first effect also. So it's the effect of something else. So the idea of a cycle is completely comfortable with me.
Mm.
Then I started to go into the depths of it.
How old were you?
I was at the time 23, maybe, 23.
That's great. You were really young to be thinking about all of these things. Nowadays, 23-year-olds don't usually think about that. It was a different time before smartphones, I'm sure. So,
well, I'd spent a lot of time even before I was 21. I already had got to know at least 40 countries. So I was really
you traveled a lot,
keen to understand the universe.
What an extraordinary soul. Okay, I have another question. So you wrote a book a few years back called The Carousel of Time, I think.
That's right.
And so from what of your experiences of time made you write that book?
Well, the idea, again, because it's such a difficult concept, because most of us, like just as our physical senses tell us that the world is flat, because we can't see the whole thing unless we go into outer space. But the thing is that if you go to the east and keep going, you'll come back from the west. So our senses are very limited. And as I said, I wanted to offer in this book a third alternative to the traditional explanations, especially in the Western world. You've got one explanation that starts with a big bang, and then later on there, for unknown reasons, life starts at a very unicellular level, like an amoeba, and then it progresses through all the different forms and finally reaches its height in the human form. That's one idea. The other idea is that God created everything from nothing, like, let there be light. Let there be light, and things came into existence. Again, very difficult to prove. So I wanted to present a third alternative that, wait a minute, whatever exists at this moment has always existed. What's been going on is a change of place and position and purpose of everything that's around us. And, there is a role for God in such an explanation of the world, that he's not the physical creator or the physical sustainer or the physical destroyer, but it's a relation between souls and matter. So how this relationship with souls and matter actually works out over time, I wanted to share about that. And I wanted to have a look at not just an idea, but there's a lot of research that went into the book to highlight why people believe what they believe. There's one register of things which is like, the scientific record, the geological record, but there's also the record of the myths. And at least 26 civilizations believed that their ancestors were elevated souls, were actually deities or something like that. And so there was actually a heaven on earth in the past. And you could say, well, 26 ancient traditions, even the Christian tradition, by the way, they believe that there was and the Jewish tradition, there was a creation, the Garden of Eden, and then all sorts of stories, and then it all ends with a destruction and a new paradise. So on earth, so actually it's a cycle as well. So I wanted to share all of these different angles to sustain this idea that time is cyclic and time repeats.
So your understanding of the cycle when you first came 45 years ago and now, I'm sure, has changed, right? Somewhat changed.
Yeah.
And, deep feeling about it, deep understanding about it, I'm sure has increased. So over time, what have been your experiences that made you feel, okay, I need to revisit this and I have a deeper understanding?
As an experience of our, if we want to really strengthen our sense of our spirituality, we definitely have to have an experience of our eternity as souls, because that gives a completely different dimension. It breaks down lots of limitations. Just as our physical senses are very limited in their perception, I think we only can perceive 3% of the electromagnetic spectrum. We're unaware of everything after violet, right? And everything before red. So the infrared and the ultra, after those things, we can't see anything else. But there's lots of other things going on. And again, we're not even aware of vibrations at all. So we're very limited in our perception. And we think that everything can be proven or by our senses. It's not true. So my own idea was that I had to work on my experience of eternity. I am an eternal soul. I'm not the body. I exist before the body. I exist after the body. So I'm this continuous energy that's temporarily in this physical state, a body. And so I wanted to work on my sense of eternity. Now, one dimension of eternity is time without end, right? And I guess that's easy for most people, that time will go on and on and on and on. What's more difficult for people to accept is that time never actually started. It's without beginning also. Without end, without beginning. But another dimension of eternity is that everything that happens is eternal as well. The same ingredients from the beginning, the same ingredients in matter, the same ingredients in the souls, and there's just an amazing interaction between what goes on in the souls and what goes on in the material world, and this, what comes up and goes around. So I wanted to work on my sense of eternity. I am a soul, I'm a peaceful soul, but I'm also an eternal soul.
So I love what you're saying about, experiencing eternity. We have all of this knowledge we get, right? And then we have to turn this knowledge into an experience, but it takes some kind of effort to do that. It just doesn't happen. So my question to you is, what kind of effort did you do before you had your first experience? Did you just, you were sitting and the clouds opened and you experienced eternity, or did you do some kind of effort to do it, to
No,
experience
no.
it?
I think it's been a gradual easing into the experience. I would say there was nothing, wow, what an incredible experience. Oh, I mean, like that. Actually, I had an experience even before I knew these things, which was pretty remarkable. I was sitting in a park in London, and suddenly my consciousness was pulled out of the body, and I was looking at my hands as if they were so far away from me. I was looking at my feet as if they, and then I was looking at my mind. I'm not this mind that's working now. I'm something more. I've got this instrument called mind. I've got this instrument called body, but I'm something different. I have a mind, I have a body. So that sort of actually led me to, I immediately wanted to understand this. This was before coming to Brahma Kumaris and getting to understand all these wonderful things in the story of immortality. So I wanted to work on that. And there was a gradual easing into the experience, I would say, through constant, consistent effort, I suppose. Because if I practice that I'm a soul, I'm a soul, I'm a soul, it's not a mantra, it's an experience. So as I go on, I get more and more deeper understanding of what it means to be a soul and in this world, actually, and it helps me to be an instrument of something higher to get better things done around me. So I wouldn't say it was like, wow. It was gradually getting used to the experience. Now it's pretty easy to consider myself as an eternal soul.
Yes, yes. So, to all of us, what would be your one advice, to have an experience of the cycle, to have an experience to see yourself through the cycle? What advice would you give us?
Well, I guess first of all, I think it's, who am I? I'm a soul. And what am I? I'm a soul. Both the answers to that is okay. But what's happened over time? I started off my experience in the soul world, and that's why it's easier to. I know that place. I can't see that place. The world of souls, our home, but I can sense it, and I can sense. I can't see God, for example, but I just have to think that presence and what I know as him as the ocean of love and peace and so on. I just have to think of that, and I feel that I'm present and he's with me, and I'm getting influenced by those qualities. But what's happened in this physical world? I was the soul. I came down in the beginning. I've been here birth after birth, going through a whole story, and it's actually the story of immortality. The story is this one. These details of soul, God, and so on are actually elements of this story over the cycle that we call the story of immortality. That's why it's such an important topic. But little by little, soul consciousness, contact with God, opening up my understanding, then looking at the world and understanding the true nature of matter and the true nature of time and what's happened to me over time. And now at this confluence age, we call it, it's the transition between the old world and the new world. We can see very clearly that everything's sort of finishing up on one side, but everything's also starting up on the other side. So I want to be there at the start. So that's the sort of thing that I reflect on.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Brother Ken. Thank you for being with us. And like you said, We have to take it slowly, gradually. Nothing, no earth-shattering thing is going to happen with the sky opening, but it all depends on the incremental meditations we do, right?
That's right.
Thank you
Cool
so
way to
much for being
describe
with
it.
us.
Thanks, Shireen. Ben, thank you, Sister Shireen. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
And so now we will do the presentation on the rest of the cycle of time. So yesterday, Sister Dorothy was talking about the Golden Age and the Silver Age. And so one of the things that we want to talk about is, like Brother Ken also was sharing, right? That this whole story, the whole story of the cycle really is the story of the world. It is the story of immortality. It is the story of immortality because it is an eternal story. No one is going to die in this. At some shape or form, they will appear in other bodies, in other ways. And the cycle is not going to end. It keeps going. And so we don't need to really worry about that. I remember my first experience. I was sitting somewhere on a stream of water, and I was watching the water go by. And I had my first experience of myself as an eternal soul. And there was such a feeling of comfort, this feeling of total comfort, because I don't need to worry about endings, because nothing is going to end. I could only articulate this afterwards, but at that point, this overwhelming feeling of comfort that I am an eternal soul. And those two feelings came at the same time. And so that's what it is, that there is immense comfort in this story, because first, there is comfort that we are souls. Second, there is comfort that our supreme parent is the supreme soul, and he is available and is willing and ready and going to take care of all of us. He's not going to let anyone down. And then the other comfort is that it is that the story is about the story of how we were wealthy in the morning and then beggars at night. And again, we can become wealthy again. And so it's not just, oh, if you're beggars now, we'll always be beggars. This is spiritually I'm talking about, but spiritually wealthy is possible and is guaranteed because it's destined in the cycle. And so it is a cycle. And like any cycle, there is no beginning, there is no end. And we spoke yesterday about the Golden Age and the Silver Age. And today we will talk about Copper Age. So in Hindi, the Golden Age is called Satyuga, which means the age of truth. And the Silver Age is called Treta Yuga, which means that it's dharma, or your sacred duty, is standing on three legs. So Treta is three. And then Dwapara Yuga, which is Copper Age, is the age of duality. Dwa means two. And so Dwapara Yuga is the age of duality. And in this age of duality, we have both things. We have both happiness and we have sorrow. We remember in some way our lost sovereignty, and we search for that sovereignty. We have some kind of a spiritual idea, but also we are getting into experimenting with the senses and really getting involved with the senses. And Dwapara, the age of duality especially, is called because of karma and dharma. So karma means action and dharma means sacred duty. And so in the golden and silver ages, karma and dharma were aligned. And that means your actions were completely aligned with your sacred duty. That was the Copper Age. And what happens is when that happens in the Golden and Silver Ages, is your karma and dharma are aligned. But in the Copper Age, our karma, our actions are separated from our sacred duty. And because of this separate, we call it the age of duality. And then from the Copper Age, we go into the Iron Age or Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga is where it's the age where, so there are 4 levels, you could say, of the soul, right? There is where it's called the Sato Pradhan stage. Sato Pradhan stage is where the soul is very, very pure. And then you have the Sato stage. So in the Golden Age, the soul is very pure. In the Silver Age, it is a little less pure. And then which is called the Sato stage. Pradhan means the highest. Sato means sattva is very pure. And then we have the Rajo or Rajas, the Rajo Pradhan stage, which is the Copper Age. So it is, you could say it's in between impurity and not so, it's the middle level of impurity. It's not completely impure, it's the middle level of impurity. And then we have the Iron Age, which is the Tamo Pradhan, which is completely impure. So completely impure means that our karma and dharma are totally separate. There is no harmony. There is sorrow in the world. There is a lot of conflict. There is a lot of strife. There's a lot of vices are ruling. So happiness is replaced by sorrow. The elements also have reached a state of their lowest state where they're giving, they are also in turmoil. And that is why you see so much is going on with the elements nowadays. And then the rulers of the world are also in a state of conflict. They where the vices are ruling everyone. And in this state where the vices are ruling everyone, this is called the Iron Age. And Brother Ken was talking about cause and effect. And in cause and effect is the cause really is the vices and the effect is sorrow. When vices are present, eventually there will be sorrow. So sometimes what happens, sometimes with vices, for the first few seconds, I'm joking, of course, but for a little bit, maybe you will find happiness. But if it is based on the vices, eventually it will lead to sorrow. That is the cause and effect of the vices. And so that's what happens in the Iron Age. And just remember that we went through the whole cycle. And the cycle is 5,000 years. And so how do we know it's 5,000 years? Like we mentioned before, these are revealed teachings. And so the Supreme Soul revealed it to us. And we will talk about the medium of revelation, how it happened later on. And so these are revealed teachings. And so just like we have a year, right? Year is 365 days. So how do we know it's 365 days? Because that's how long it takes for the Earth to complete one rotation around the sun. In the same way, we have 5,000 year cycle. And this is the larger context of time. In the larger context of time, that means it takes 5,000 years for us to go through the Golden Age, or you could say spring of time, Silver Age, or the summer of time, Copper Age or the autumn or a fall of time, and Kali Yuga or the Iron Age, which is the winter of time. And so the golden age is the land of happiness, and then the iron age is the land of sorrow. In the golden age, it's a pure world, it's a kingdom. And now the iron age is totally in shambles, pretty much. I'm sure all of you would agree with me on that. And so in the golden age, everything is for happiness. And in the iron age, everything, even though it gives sorrow a little bit, it gives happiness a little bit. Eventually things give us a lot of sorrow. And so it is a cycle. And so an important thing that we need to remember in this cycle is that from the Iron Age, there will be the Golden Age again. And so this is the meeting of the old cycle and the new cycle. And that is why we say that it is the confluence age. So the Iron Age, there's a lot of sorrow. And we can't say, oh, but my life is okay. We can't say that. We have to generally look at the world and see how dissatisfied people are, or what is going on with everyone, how many wars there are, what's happening, right? We can't just say, oh, my life is okay, so it's okay. And so it is right now the end of the Tamo Pradhan stage. So the Iron Age, it's the end of the Iron Age. And another very important thing about the Iron Age is, if you think about this as a stage, right? The soul world is where our home is, and this is the stage. The earth right now is the stage. And so in the home, in the soul world, we are just there as souls. And then we come here and we adopt these costumes. So these are costumes. I am a soul and this is my costume. And so all actors and their costumes right now are on the stage. So what that means is all of the souls in the soul world, pretty much all of them, are here on earth because it is curtain call time. Curtain call means the end of the play is coming to an end. So it's the end of the play, the author, the director, the main actors, everyone comes on stage and takes a bow. And so this is the time for curtain call. So this is the time where we end everything. And so this drama, this play, is about to reach its conclusion. And so with that, let's have a few minutes of meditation. So I want you to take a deep breath in and out. And remember who you are as a being of light. Remember yourself as a luminous star. Shining through behind these eyes. And in this state, connect with the Supreme Soul, the self-luminous ocean of love. I am a soul, and I'm here, connected with the incorporeal soul, who's beyond the cycle of birth and death. He's beyond the cycle of time. He's beyond the system where there are 4 ages or 4 seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter. I, the soul, go through these ages. I go through the age where everything is beautiful. The earth is pure and everyone is harmonious. I come into the silver age where it is semi-pure and still beautiful, a reflection of the golden age. I come into the copper age, the age of duality, where my karma and dharma are in conflict. And I slowly come into the Iron Age, where everything is in a state of impurity. Sorrow and restlessness are increasing. And as they increase, my level of discontentment is also increasing. And eventually, the Supreme Soul finds me and tells me, you are a soul. I am your parent. And you have been through the cycle of golden, silver, copper, iron ages. And it's now time to go back home and come back into the cycle again. You are eternal. That is, you eternally go through the cycle of time. When I reflect on the cycle, I realize that the Supreme Soul is always present for me. And I realize nothing can ever happen to me because I do not have a beginning nor an end. And time doesn't have a beginning nor an end. And with that thought, I come back to here and now. Om Shanti. Om Shanti, everyone. Hope your meditation was good. So we will start with the rest of our presentation. So we have mentioned before our last last weekend, we spoke about the confluence age. So the confluence age is the age really where you hear from the Supreme Soul about the story of immortality. And like Brother Ken was sharing, the story of the cycle is the story of immortality. And the story of the cycle is your story. It is your lives. It is what happened to you when you look beyond just this physical world, just this one life. If you look beyond this just one life, this is what your story is. And I loved what he was sharing. Two things. Physically, when you look, like I'm standing here, you would never think, looking at with just my physical eyes and my sights and sounds, all my senses right now, I will not be able to tell that the earth is a sphere, the earth is round. Just by looking, I think the earth is flat. So our senses are actually very limiting because they just make us so limited to what is right now going on. It doesn't give us a broad sense of what things are. Another thing, another example he gave was infrared and ultraviolet. So we can only see from violet to red, right? That color spectrum. So ultraviolet, we cannot see anything beyond ultraviolet, and we cannot see anything before red. Infrared, we cannot see with the naked eye. So even in that way, but most of science, most of everything, advances in science, whatever it is that we are able to do is because we are able to access these things in science. And the other thing is, just because they're not, you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. You know, we all know they're there now, right? So we can't say, oh, but I don't know if it's there, all of those things, because science has proven to us, yes, they're there. And so it's the same. Okay. We are getting a leak from the translation. And so it's the same with time. Just because you cannot see that it is a 5,000-year cycle, just because you cannot see there was a golden and silver age and copper age, that doesn't mean it wasn't there. Our experience tells us, yes, it is a cycle, and the cycle, and we have finished one cycle and we are beginning another cycle. That is what is the story of immortality. And so the way we are able to see, you know, just like with right measurement instruments, we are able to see that the earth is a sphere, and with instruments, we are able to see infrared and ultraviolet rays. In the same way, the Supreme Soul has given us the third eye, so we can see the whole of time. We can see that time is actually a cycle. And the day dawns through the light of knowledge. And so this day, the golden age, is only going to happen when we see with our third eye and we use the knowledge, because the day comes with the light of knowledge. And so in this confluence age, what should we do? the first thing and the most important thing is we have to practice soul consciousness. We have to practice remembering I am a soul. And then the second most important is, actually, there's not order, but it's not one is more important than the other. But in this order is, first you become soul conscious, then you remember the Supreme Soul. And the third thing that we have to do, which all three are very important, is spin the cycle of self-realization. And spinning the cycle of self-realization means you see yourself in the golden age, you see yourself in the silver age, you see yourself in the copper age, you see yourself in the iron age, then you see yourself going back home to the soul world, and then you see yourself coming to the golden age again. Because it's very, very important. I cannot stress to you the importance of spinning the cycle of self-realization. If one practice changed my life, that is the one practice that changed my life, is to see myself through the ages, not just in this one limited life. And the Supreme Soul has a few thoughts for us on this. And I wanted to give those thoughts to you unedited. So here they are. So the Supreme Soul says, I have now come to take you back to your home. I have become restless without you. As the time is approaching, when the beginning of the conference age, I become restless. I feel that I must go to the physical world. The children are very unhappy and are calling out for me to come. I feel deep compassion for them. I feel that I must go to them. As the time approaches, according to the accurate time in the drama, the thought arises in me that I have to go. So these are thoughts of the Supreme Soul. So all souls are children, right? Every single soul is a child of the Supreme Soul. So hence we use the word Baba. So Baba in Hindi and in many languages means father. And you don't want to use Baba, that's fine, but we use Baba because we want to feel that very close relationship with the Supreme Soul as a father. And so the father, Baba, now asks his sweet child, you sweet child, do you understand what Baba is saying to you? So Baba is speaking to the soul. He's not speaking to the body. And when we say Baba, we mean the incorporeal Supreme Soul. You are called an effort maker, and there's always cause and effect. Reward cannot be received without making effort. So it's been a long time since we left our home, and so we have forgotten our way back. And so we have to become pure, and the way to become pure is that mantra, Manmana Bhav. Consider yourself to be a soul. Remember me, the Supreme Soul. And go back to your sweet, silent home. And this is how the cycle turns. So, with that, let's have a few minutes of meditation. So take a deep breath and let's become Manmana Bhav. Soul conscious first is identify and see and visualize yourself as a being of light, the Supreme. So Baba is in front of me, but before I connect with the Supreme Soul, let me see myself and really connect with myself as that luminous being in my forehead. And with that, let me connect with the Supreme Soul. With my heart, I accept the Supreme Soul as my spiritual parent, Baba. Baba is a luminous being of light that is beyond birth and death, and beyond the cycle of golden, silver, copper, iron ages. And because he's beyond this, he comes and tells me my whole story, my story of immortality. Baba tells me that I used to be part of a golden age for humanity, where everything was pure, harmonious, peaceful, and divine. And gradually I come down into the silver age for humanity. And the soul is like silver, a reflection of the golden age. But a few impurities have crept into the soul. As time goes on, I take rebirth in the silver age and gradually come down into the copper age. The copper age is the age where I am in a state of middle level of purity. And between impurity and purity, my dharma and my karma are not aligned. The Rajo Pradhan stage. And in this stage, the soul seeks, and in this age, as major world religions are established. And I go from birth to birth, seeking and not finding my lost divinity. I eventually come into the Iron Age, where everything is impure, including the soul. The vices are ruling. And then I feel restless and conflict and peaceless. And everywhere I see the vices have taken over. And the cause is the vices, and the effect is sorrow everywhere. And I gradually come into the confluence age because of Baba's grace on me. Holding my hand, Baba tells me that it's time to go back home. It's the confluence age and time for the new world. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Shireen. Wonderful experience. I'm sure everyone must have felt all deep insights. And now I would like to open up for question answer. So please write your questions into the chat box to the host and our two presenters, Sister Shireen and Sister Dorothy, will take those questions. So I would like to invite them. Please welcome Sister Dorothy and Sister Shireen.
Om Shanti, everyone. It's so nice to be here, and I love being in the Golden Age so much, Shireen, that I have decided to create it behind me and be in this idyllic paradise. But we do have a question, and we only have a few minutes left for questions today. Is Baba a representation of the Supreme Soul? Like Jesus is a symbol of God, or is like a guru or master?
So when we say Baba, in today's reference, in the meditation, in today's meditation and in the presentation, when we say Baba, we are referring to the Supreme Soul. We are referring to the incorporeal being of light who is beyond the cycle of birth and death. So when we say Baba, we are referring to the Supreme Soul himself, because we want that close relationship with him as our Baba. But if you're referring to our founder, Brahma Baba, then we can talk about Brahma Baba later on.
Yes, and you know what? I grew up in a culture, Shireen, separate from your culture. And so this word Baba in the beginning for me was difficult, but it really is a loving term, a very loving term. And as my mother used to tell me when I was just a very small child, I used to ask for my Baba, my Baba. So this must have been some kind of residue from a previous birth. But we have another question. And that question is, is God the creator? Who is the creator of God?
God does not have a creator. He is, when we say God is a creator, it doesn't mean oof, and he brings about, let's say, the orchid plant, or woof when he brings about, whatever, this computer. It's not like that. When we say creator, we say that he recreates, that he takes something old and he makes it new. And the first thing that he takes something old and makes new is the soul. And so the soul is Tamopradhan, and then he takes a Tamopradhan soul and makes it Satapradhan. And what happens is when he makes enough Tamopradhan souls into Satapradhan, then matter becomes Satapradhan, everything becomes Satapradhan, and the golden age comes. And so that's how he creates the golden age. So when we say he's the creator, he kind of recreates, but there's no one beyond Baba. Baba is the highest. That's why we say the Supreme Soul. He's the highest. And you can't ask that question, no? The question of, does God have a creator? Really? You can't ask the question, who created the soul? Because the soul is eternal. There's no beginning.
Thank you. That's a very nice answer. Yes, so the soul is eternal, and God is also a soul, so he's eternal. Makes sense. But I have a question now. This is probably our last questions that I would like you to explain, Shireen. And you talked about that all sorrow comes from the vices. But I think it would be good for the listeners to really understand, what are the vices that's causing me so much sorrow?
Right. So that's a very good question. In the Indian epic Ramayana, it's an epic. For those of you who are not familiar with Indian mythology, though I might get my head cut off for calling it mythology because some people really believe it happened. But whatever it is, there is an Indian epic called Ramayana, and in Ramayana there is the enemy, quote unquote enemy, is this being called Ravan or Ravana. And in Ravana, they always depict Ravana with 10 heads, right? 10 heads, but I think they should have depicted Ravana with 27 heads, but we won't get into how many heads Ravana should have, but he has 10 heads in the epic. And so what Baba has told us, the Supreme Soul has told us, is that these 10 heads are actually a representation of the vices. So he gave us 5 vices of women, 5 vices of man, so 10 heads. And those vices are lust, anger, greed, ego, and attachment. And I feel that the reason why I feel there should be 27 heads and not just 10 heads, because there are other vices like laziness and arrogance and fear, which really are right up there with those 10 heads. And so one thing that we need to understand, and I feel as you spiritually evolve, you understand, is no human being really is your enemy, because the worst damage that you can do is by engaging with these vices. When you engage with lust, or when you engage with greed, or when you engage with anger, that is when sorrow comes. Sorrow doesn't come because, let's say, one of you has decided to punch me, right? That's not why sorrow comes. One of you decides to punch me, it's just one small act. But me thinking of you punching me all the time, that is my problem. It's not your problem. Okay, that one small act could have started, but if I didn't have any vice, I didn't have any arrogance, I didn't have any feeling of, oh, how dare they, I wouldn't have taken sorrow from it. And so the vices really cause a lot of sorrow. And that is our biggest enemy. And that's something really important to internalize and to really sit with and live with, is no human being is my enemy. The vices, my own vices, that's my enemy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shireen. And I think we're going to be closing now. And I think you must have a blessing ready for all of us.
Yes,
right?
Blessing.
Wonderful. And then we will end with some stillness, some silence, some quiet time. And Shireen will read this beautiful blessing beautifully.
So this blessing is for all of you. And I want you to take it as a blessing. No, not if it's true, maybe not true, not like that, okay? It's a blessing from the Supreme Soul, Baba. You have learned to smile from the heart. Your smile works a quiet magic that dispels sorrow and takes souls home to their goodness. You have learned to smile from the heart. Your smile works a quiet magic that dispels sorrow and takes souls home to their goodness. Om Shanti. So let's have a minute of
Om Shanti. Thank you to each one of you for being with us today. And today we completed our episode 10th. And I'm sure each one of you must have taken a lot from all these episodes. And we look forward to see you again and again. So we'll see you next Saturday. Will be our episode 11. And here you see on the screen, we have our YouTube link. where you can get all the recordings of our The Story of Immortality episodes. Please review them. You can listen again. You can share the link with others who can benefit. And also we have registration link, email address, and also website. So please send your suggestions, experiences. Also visit our website. You can find our Story of Immortality book audio file there. You can buy the book also. So for now, say goodbye and see you again next Saturday. Om Shanti.